Welcome to all sins and commandments alike. This is Griever, your nerdy hillbilly host, as not exactly always, but for right now, as always, bringing you guys episode 4 of Nanatsu no Taizai, final season, Dragon's Judgment, yada, yada, yada. Let's go, because what do you guys think? What did you think of the episode? Because here's a key thing. I think this episode was actually very good. I really do. The problems that I have with the episode can all be summed up as problems with the storytelling itself. Not necessarily the anime adaptation did anything wrong. By trying to follow the manga and not deviate too far, and where they did deviate, in my opinion, they succeeded quite well. I almost was hoping for more deviation, if nothing else. But you shouldn't, and I shouldn't, fault the anime episode by episode for not going as close to panel by panel as possible from the manga. So when I first watched this episode, I had some issues. Because this, for those of you who don't know, and we won't be spoiling ahead, but this was the start. This was the start. You can go check out the Boar's Hat podcast reruns on Grim Reaper's channel. You can go check out my old reviews and stuff. This was the start of what we like to call in the Taizai fan community, the bullshittery that began with adding Pokemon types. Now, we're not going to get too far into that because, once again, when I was first watching it, I was like, this happened, that happened. Oh, I remember this. Oh, God. And then I remembered, this is the anime. I cannot fault or minus points for them doing that. Because the later half of this episode did quite well. Now, I'm not going to say it was handled as good as I wanted. And what am I talking about? Well, spoilers ahead, Estarossa was never Estarossa. I didn't expect this to be this early. I thought we'd get at least this one more episode and then the big reveal. I thought by episode 5 maybe. But it's going quite quick, even though that was the pacing. And here we get this big reveal. And this was handled way better than the manga, guys. This was a positive on the anime side. For me, we all talked about it. We all knew it. I was trying to keep this spoiler free, but Estarossa was never Estarossa. Estarossa never actually existed. It was Mael of the Four Archangels. This dude, it was him the entire time. Meliodas was never his brother, and he was never Estarossa. There was only ever two sons of the Demon King, Meliodas and Zeldris. Estarossa was actually the fourth missing archangel the whole time. Ludicel, whatever, is his actual brother. And he was jealous of Meliodas and hated Meliodas because he believed that he was the brother. And it's crazy. It's crazy. We got the big reveal at the end. Now, one problem I had with this. You know what? Before we get in, I don't want to keep jumping around. So let's stay with this, all right? We're gonna end this. No, you know what? Let's go back. What did I mean by Pokemon types and such, right? Okay, so following this chronologically and how we got it in the episode, we finished the Battle of 6. And initially I was gonna be like, okay, this was bad, that was bad, but it was all manga stuff, right? The Escanor pop finger thing, just out of nowhere, really quick. I was like, they didn't handle the one well. Last episode, I still hold to that. I watched that really early in the morning. This, I'm watching with a clear head, and I can honestly say, I think my initial reaction was right, and I still don't like the disservice to the one. But the rest of this episode, for some reason, they couldn't animate Zeldris versus Ludicel quite well in episode 2, was it, or something like that, or episode 1. Now, here in episode 4, I thought they did quite a good job for not exactly having an Attack on Titan One Punch Man level budget. I thought they handled the fight between Cusack and Ludicel quite well. That was animated fine. It wasn't stellar, but it was. This is all I was asking for consistently. That's the problem. The consistency is still a little off. But here, this wasn't that bad. But this is sort of the end of the Battle of 6. This is sort of the hype sort of dwindling down, because here is where we still have some great moments to go. But this was sort of the start that a lot of us started to see the cracks. You know, if you saw the cracks beforehand in the story or the power system or what have you in the manga, this is where we started to see the cracks. And Merlin and her bullshittery, her Game Shark level, which I'm not going to go on a Merlin rant. I've done that a million times on this channel. But, you know, the inclusion of just, I'm going to add infinity to this, infinity to that. I'm going to change the definition of what my magic actually does from the get-go. I'm going to forget who I was. I'm going to have 6 blessings. I'm going to have 1,000 things that I never told anybody that could have been useful the entire series. And now, boom, it's going to work against Chandler and Cusack. And apparently, Chandler and Cusack have typing. Chandler's apparently a Gyarados because he's weak to lightning attacks. It's ×4 effective. And, you know, and Cusack is bad for wind. So he must be a fighting type, right? You know, because wind is hurting him, flying types are hurting him. So, you know, just get a bunch of Pidgeys to attack Cusack and he's down for the count, right? So yeah, this was the start of a lot of the stuff that a lot of fans were divided on and questioned. I was one of the ones who initially questioned it, and then we sort of went down from there. Now, after that, we get, what did we have after that? Oh yeah, so Merlin did all that stuff, right? And there was this creepy scene with Merlin and stuff, and everything was fine. But as I said, overall, not too bad, and those were manga problems. And as I said, the Cusack versus Ludishell fight handled pretty well. After this, here's what we all want to talk about, which is the transition thing, the pacing and the jumping in between scenes, very unlike the manga, and for the better, to showcase everyone reacting at the same time. There was a crack. I like to believe it was Elizabeth, actually. Elizabeth was the one to notice it, because Meliodas would never say what he said to Estarossa. And that's where it started to happen, and she was engulfed and all that stuff. And that's where the cracks started to happen. And I am more firmly believe this because now the anime has shown a different sort of paced way of how this came about, and it was Elizabeth who was the first one to actually discover it, Gowther being the only one who knew the true identity from the get-go, because that was the enchantment, that was the magic placed on everybody, was the memory manipulation magic, right? And the way this was handled, I thought overall was handled quite well. Because we jump in between everybody, very unlike the manga, and I know I keep saying that, but I gotta say, this is really good, because they're jumping in between everybody, slowly reacting. It starts with Ludishell. Like, we got little hints in the last episode with Meliodas, but now we're jumping in between here. You know, we have Ludishell, who's just like, why, after defeating everyone, it's like, why can I not think? He thinks of Mile, and then he goes, why does the face of Estarossa pierce my mind and can't understand it? Then Merlin is no, it was after that. Then Meliodas and Bon and Hawk, they meet up with the Demon King, who also goes, you also can't seem to remember much about that man that I felt pity for. And the only thing they can remember is that paragraph, is that he was a weak demon, second son of the Demon King, could hurt nothing but a fly, was not gifted with the power of darkness, so the Demon King, feeling pity upon him, granted him one of the commandments. And that's what everybody knows. That, and he killed Maya. That's all anybody knows about him. Nobody can actually have a concurrent real memory of him because they don't exist. And that scene, throughout these scenes, and as Elizabeth slowly starts to remember these scenes with a younger Estarossa, it's not making a whole lot of sense. Because as she remembers, the cracks start to show. And we see Sariel and Tarmiel affected. We see Dedieti affected. We see Merlin affected. Maybe I'm forgetting why, but why the hell would Merlin be affected? Anyways, so Merlin was apparently affected too. I don't really know why. And then just everybody was affected, from the Demon King all the way down to Merlin. They're all affected, and it's slowly going through and showing us. And they took a nice long time. It's like half the episode where they jump back and forth through this, and we see Elizabeth remembering and monologuing over it and stuff. And once again, this is all in the manga, but we had to wait chapters, like literal chapters worth of time between this and everything else, right? Like, I believe we already knew who Estarossa was, and then we started like the Battle of Six or something like that. Like it was not handled the best. But this time, this was handled really well for anime-only viewers. I do have some problems with it, though. Number one, once again, just like with the one, if you had the animation budget, I would have sacrificed like the Zeldris versus Ludoshell, sort of really bad. Oh, they are moving so fast. Sword slashes. I would have had that happen a second time with Cusack and stuff had this been animated better. I just feel like it was animated okay, but once again, if you're only going to have a couple of scenes that are going to be like, yes, this looks really good, you got to know where to put your budget. If you didn't put it in the one, what are you waiting for? This was the time to showcase the transitioning and everyone going nuts and stuff. This is where you put the money. Because, and another problem, did anybody else find this? Maybe I watched two versions of this, right? Because I find the subtitles are quite poor. They keep calling the Demon King the genie and stuff like that. It's weird. But forgetting the subtitles for a second, did anybody find the music really low? Because that's what was missing. I was like, where's this crescendo? Like, this is that. Let's go. Like, this is all really well cut, even for, like, the animation not being, like, stellar. Like, I believe, like, this is another moment it should have had more budget put into it. But even so, the pacing and the transitions and everything was fine. The shots were fine. But it's like, we're building up to this super hype moment. This is, like, the really hype moment for this season. And the music felt like it was turned down to 10% volume. Like, I could barely make it out. It sounded like a good OST, but I couldn't really hear it. Sounded like there was some choir going on. I don't know. I even went back and listened on another version and tried to see, and I felt like it was like really turned down, and like the sound effects and the dialogue way overtook it. I was like, no, this should be slowly building. Like, this should be like a rheostat, like constantly increasing that dial as the transition went on from 5%, 10%, 15%, and keep building up the music to go over the sound effects, to go over and slowly to the point that it is all that matters. And maybe a small monologue of Gother over this grandiose music. I can't complain about the music because I didn't even hear it. I don't know. It could have been a good OST, but I don't know because I couldn't hear it. Like, that was a bit of a fail on this part, and I don't know why that would be the case. For the rest of it, everything else was fine, but that was a really, I don't know, is it the versions? I watched two separate versions, completely separate, different watermarks and everything. So, two separate versions. And both of them seem to have the volume really low. Now, that might have been just happenstance with both those versions. Maybe my ears are going. I'm 30 years old. Maybe I'm senile. I don't know, but you guys let me know. Because every other scene, the music was a fine volume and stuff. At the beginning of the episode, started off, the music was fine. It's in the background, right? This should have been building. It should have been hype. It should have been amazing. And that's one point. Once again, the reveal was good. The transitions were good. I thought this episode overall was very good. Just have to separate yourself that little bit from the manga and what it did wrong. And overall, this was great. But I felt like this should have been building like Requiem for a Dream. You know, something like that. Or we should have had like the happy music for Seven Deadly Sins, like Perfect Time and stuff, doesn't really fit here. But here's where you put something. Right? Here's where you really build up that orchestra and that choir and that deep, oh no, like this should have been like trailer level music, like epic. Let's go. Let's hear the choir. Let's hear the church organs on this big reveal. And I just didn't. I know I keep harping on this, but literally I didn't even want to review the rest of the episode. I just wanted to talk about what a bad mistake that was, at least for me. But what did you guys think? I don't want this to be like a 25-minute review, so I'll end it there. Overall, I thought it was like an 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. It was okay. It was pretty good. I love what they did with the pacing and transition for that Esther Rosa into Mael moment. It was really well handled. Just, this could have easily been a 9 for that moment alone, barring all the other stuff that went on with the animation and stuff. Had that moment not just... Come on, guys, like, turn the volume up. Let's hear that OST might have been exactly what I'm asking for, but if I can't hear it, it doesn't matter. So let me know if it was just my versions that I watched, guys, because I would easily raise that up to an 8.5 episode if the music was good and the volume was better on different sites and yada yada yada. But you guys let me know. What did you guys think? Once again, I did complain about some of the manga stuff that happened, but that was not a reason to minus points. It was really just the animation is still... I'm still like, the character models are still a little like, for me. And maybe it was because of A1 Pictures, they did such an amazing job with the first season and stuff. I don't know. And so maybe I'm just biased and I'm not seeing it. I'm trying to look at it and being like, okay, it's okay. But once again, but overall, I thought the episode was fine. Pretty good. And that pacing, that gives it a few... You know what? I will give it a solid 8. I'll give it a solid 8 even for the other stuff. I thought this was so far probably the best episode we've gotten. The Gelda and Zelda stuff was really good. The additional stuff in the last episode. But this was a payoff moment that we all knew was coming since episode 1. And we were watching the way they were handling it. So... I just wish they had stretched it out a little longer and then we got this reveal episode 5, 6 maybe. But either way, I thought it was handled very well. What did you guys think? So I'm going to stop harping because this is going to be like 30 minutes long by the time I'm done. So, all right, like, comment, and subscribe, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget, we're trying to get to 500 subs in the month of March. That way, in April, you guys can get a 500 milestone video of your guys' choosing. Whatever you guys want, a video will be out and maybe a poll or something like that if I can figure out how that works in April or in March, whatever. So, well, we'll figure that out. But remember, not 300 subs, not 400 subs, 500 subs in the month of March. Let's freaking go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Griever, signing out. Later.